The Spirit never sleeps. Even as your body surrenders to rest, the presence of God within you remains fully awake, active, and alert. The part of you that is born of the Spirit is not bound by the limitations of natural fatigue. While your mind and flesh yield to the quiet of the night, your inner man continues to operate in the flow of heaven's power, staying connected to the life-giving presence of the Father. Many miss this reality because they measure God's work by what they can see or feel. But the truth is that heaven never stops moving on behalf of those who believe. In the stillness of the night, when your thoughts are no longer cluttered by the noise of the day, the Spirit has freer access to your heart. He ministers peace to your soul, restores what was worn out, and recharges your faith for the journey ahead. While you rest, He is at work untangling the knots of worry, lining up divine appointments, and preparing solutions for challenges you have yet to face. The Spirit is like a master craftsman, carefully shaping outcomes that your natural efforts could never achieve on their own. Sleep, for the believer, is not an interruption of spiritual life, but an extension of it. Your surrender to rest becomes an act of trust, a silent declaration that God is in control even when you are not conscious of His workings. Angels are mobilized. Prayers sown during the day continue to bear fruit, and the promises of God are reinforced in the unseen realm. What seems like inactivity to the natural eye is in fact a continuation of heaven's labor, uninterrupted and unhindered. The awareness that the Spirit never sleeps changes how you approach the night. It transforms what could be hours of vulnerability into moments of divine activity. Fear loses its hold because you understand that the one who guards you neither slumbers nor sleeps, even in the deepest hours of the night. He is moving, speaking, healing, and aligning circumstances in your favor. As you yield to rest, you enter a rhythm of grace, a supernatural exchange where heaven's power keeps flowing through your life without pause. There is a power in the words that leave your lips, a creative force that continues to work long after they have been spoken. When you speak in faith, you set in motion spiritual laws that the natural world cannot resist. Words are not just sounds. They are carriers of authority. They travel into the unseen realm, influencing circumstances, shifting atmospheres, and activating the resources of heaven. When you understand that your voice has been invested with spiritual authority, you no longer speak carelessly. Every declaration becomes a seed that, once released, begins to produce after its kind. The spoken word determines the environment you carry into your rest. What you declare before you close your eyes creates a spiritual climate that either welcomes heaven's activity or leaves space for fear and unrest. Faith-filled words are like assignments given to angels, instructions that they hasten to perform according to the will of God. When you speak life, healing, protection, and provision, those words take root and begin to bear fruit even as you sleep. On the other hand, words of doubt, fear, and worry open doors for confusion and unease. The authority entrusted to your tongue is real, and what you do with it determines what manifests in your life. Nightly declarations are not rituals, but exercises of dominion. They are reminders to the unseen realm of what has already been settled in heaven. The power behind your words does not come from emotional intensity, but from alignment with the truth of God's promises. When your words echo His word, they carry the weight of heaven's authority, and nothing can resist their fulfillment. Before sleep, a simple yet deliberate confession of faith has the power to shift the trajectory of your tomorrow. You go to bed not in uncertainty, but under the covering of words that create a hedge of protection and open doors of blessing. As you release your words into the atmosphere, understand that they continue to speak even when you are silent. They establish boundaries, enforce promises, and prepare the ground for the Spirit to move. What you declare at night works through the darkness, ensuring that you wake to the manifestation of what you have spoken in faith. This is the authority of the spoken word, an unbroken chain between your faith-filled confession and heaven's power in action. The law of faithful confession is an unchanging principle that governs the flow of God's power into a believer's life. It is the divine order that what you consistently confess with your mouth, believe it in your heart, will eventually shape the reality you live in. Faith is not merely silent agreement. It demands expression. Words spoken in faith are not idle. They carry life, direction, and authority, moving unseen forces to bring your declarations into being. This law works whether or not one fully understands it, much like the law of gravity. It simply operates aligning outcomes with the persistent confessions of the believer. Faithful confession is not about repeating empty phrases, but holding fast to the truth of what God has said, regardless of shifting circumstances or feelings. It is a continual agreement with the promises of heaven, even when natural evidence seems to contradict them. Each declaration of faith builds an inner structure of belief, reinforcing your spiritual stance and gradually transforming doubt into unwavering confidence. Over time, your words begin to align your thoughts, emotions, and actions with the reality you confess, creating a powerful synergy between belief and speech. This law becomes especially vital in the quiet moments before sleep, when your last words of the day set the tone for the hours to come. A faithful confession at night is like planting a seed in fertile soil. As you rest, that seed begins to take root, drawing on the life of the Spirit to produce its harvest. Angels respond to the word spoken in faith, carrying out assignments that bring about protection, provision, and breakthrough. Your confession becomes a living force, continuing to speak on your behalf even while you are unaware, shaping circumstances and preparing the ground for the manifestation of God's promises. Living by the law of faithful confession requires persistence. There may be times when you do not see immediate change, yet the principle remains true. Words of faith sown consistently will not return void. Each declaration builds momentum in the spirit realm until what you have believed and spoken becomes visible in the natural. Through this law, the believer learns to wield the tongue as an instrument of creation, establishing God's will in their life through unwavering, faith-filled speech. Divine rest is not mere inactivity. It is an active expression of trust in the power and faithfulness of God. It is the posture of a heart that is fully surrendered worry and striving, choosing instead to rely on the unseen hand that holds all things together. When you enter divine rest, you are not disengaging from life's battles. You are stepping into a higher realm where the victory has already been secured. It becomes a weapon against fear, anxiety, and the endless pressure to figure everything out on your own. Resting in God dismantles the enemy's strategies because it denies him the foothold of doubt and panic. When you sleep with this understanding, your rest is no longer a moment of vulnerability, but a strategic act of warfare. It is a declaration that you refuse to carry burdens that have already been placed in the care of the one who never slumbers nor sleeps. In this place of divine rest, angels are free to move, circumstances are being aligned, and answers are being prepared while you are still and silent. The battle is not fought with restless striving, but with a calm assurance that heaven is working on your behalf. Every hour spent in this trust-filled rest reinforces your confidence in the promises of God and robs fear of its power. Divine rest equips you with renewed strength for the coming day. It allows your body to be refreshed, your mind to be cleared of the day's clutter, and your spirit to remain in tune with the gentle whispers of God. While others may wake weary and weighed down by worry, those who embrace divine rest rise with an unshakable sense of peace and purpose, ready to walk in the victories that were secured in the night. This kind of rest disarms the enemy's accusations, silences the noise of anxiety, and becomes a living testimony of the believer's confidence in God's unfailing care. Guarding the gates of the mind is essential for anyone who desires to live in the constant flow of heaven's power. The thoughts you entertain and the images you allow to linger in your imagination determine the environment of your inner life. Just as a watchman stands at the entrance of a city to protect it from invaders, you must be deliberate about what you let into your mental space. Every word you hear, every picture you see, and every idea you meditate on has the potential to take root and influence your actions. The battle for victory often begins in the realm of thought, and if that gate remains unguarded, fear, doubt, and distraction can slip in unnoticed, disrupting the peace and authority that belong to you. Before you sleep, the mind is especially vulnerable because it is the final filter through which the events of the day pass. If your last thoughts are filled with worry, regret, or fear, they can follow you into the night, opening the door to restlessness and anxiety. But when you intentionally fill your mind with the promises of God, meditating on His faithfulness and speaking words of gratitude, you set a spiritual perimeter that keeps negative influences at bay. This practice allows your rest to become a place of restoration rather than a continuation of the day's mental battles. The thoughts you choose before sleep often determine the dreams you dream, the quality of your rest, and the clarity with which you hear divine instruction. Guarding your mind requires discipline, a conscious decision to reject thoughts that do not align with the truth you have embraced. It means replacing worry with faith, fear with assurance, and confusion with the clarity of God's Word. Over time, this intentional filtering strengthens your inner defenses, making it harder for negativity to gain access. As the gates of your mind remain secure, peace begins to reign within. And even in your sleep, your inner man continues to draw from the flow of heaven's wisdom and power. The night watch of the Spirit is a sacred dimension of your walk with God that continues even while your physical body rests. As the world quiets down and your conscious thoughts fade, the Spirit within you remains fully active, carrying on the work of intercession, alignment, and divine communication. In these silent hours, your inner man communes with God in ways your natural understanding cannot fully grasp. Dreams, visions, and impressions are often deposited during this time, carrying guidance, warnings, or confirmations meant to direct your path. While you sleep, the Spirit searches the deep things of God, drawing out answers to questions you have not yet articulated, and arranging breakthroughs that await you in the morning. This watch of the Spirit is unhindered by the distractions that often crowd your mind during the day. In rest, the heart is more receptive, and the spiritual atmosphere becomes more conducive to receiving the gentle whispers of heaven. There are moments when you awaken with sudden clarity, fresh ideas, or an unexplainable sense of peace, because your spirit has been in dialogue with the divine through the night. Even unseen battles are fought and won in these hours as the Spirit intercedes for you with groanings too deep for words, enforcing heaven's will over your life. Understanding the night watch shifts your perspective on sleep. It is no longer a passive state, but an active partnership with God, where the Spirit continues the work of transformation, healing, and preparation. Each night becomes an opportunity for divine exchange. Burdens lifted, faith strengthened, and instructions imparted. The more you yield your nights to the Spirit, the more you awaken equipped for the assignments of the day, carrying with you the residue of encounters that happen in the quiet, unseen hours of the night. Establishing nightly protocols is about creating a consistent pattern that invites the power of heaven to operate unhindered while you rest. What you do in the final moments before sleep shapes the spiritual environment that governs your night. When you end your day with gratitude, prayer, and meditation on the promises of God, you are preparing fertile ground for divine activity. It is a deliberate act of alignment, a way of handing over the cares of the day to the one who never slumbers, allowing his peace to take dominion over your mind and heart. This intentional preparation becomes a shield, guarding you from fear, anxiety, and the subtle attacks that often come in the stillness of the night. Nightly protocols are not about routine for the sake of routine, but about cultivating an atmosphere that makes room for the Spirit to move freely. As you declare words of faith, rehearse the truth of God's promises, and release the burdens of the day, you are setting the stage for a night filled with restoration and spiritual strengthening. Each step, whether it is a whispered prayer, a moment of worship, or the quiet reading of Scripture, carries weight in the unseen realm. Angels are commissioned by your declarations, and your spirit enters the night ready to receive divine downloads of wisdom, direction, and encouragement. Over time, these protocols form a rhythm that trains both your mind and body to transition from the noise of the day into the rest of faith. Instead of tossing and turning with unresolved worries, you learn to release them fully, trusting that heaven is at work on your behalf. This intentional closing of the day helps you wake up with clarity, renewed strength, and a deeper awareness of the Spirit's presence. Each morning becomes a testimony of what was established in the quiet moments before sleep, as the fruit of your nightly alignment begins to manifest in peace, provision, and spiritual empowerment. Awakening to manifested power is stepping into the evidence of what heaven has been working on while you rested. As your eyes open to a new day, you often find that solutions have surfaced, burdens have lifted, and a fresh sense of direction has settled within you. What seemed unresolved the night before now carries an inner assurance that something has shifted. The spiritual seeds sown through faithful confessions, prayers, and meditations have continued to grow in the unseen realm, and you awaken standing in the harvest of what was set in motion during the night. There is a quiet confidence that comes with knowing that while you were still, heaven was active. Answers to prayers begin to unfold, opportunities align themselves, and divine strategies that were birthed in the secret place rise to the surface of your awareness. Many wake with sudden inspiration or an unexplainable sense of peace because their spirit has been laboring in partnership with the Spirit of God, preparing them for what lies ahead. Even physical healing, emotional restoration, and mental clarity can manifest upon waking, tangible proof that the power of heaven was at work through the night. This awakening is not limited to external changes. It often begins within. A renewed faith, a heightened sense of purpose, and an unshakable assurance of God's presence infuse the heart with boldness for the day ahead. Challenges that once felt overwhelming now appear surmountable because the inner man has been strengthened during rest. The day becomes an extension of what was accomplished in the night, with each step marked by the residue of divine activity. Walking into a new morning under this awareness builds a lifestyle of expectancy, where every day holds the potential to reveal more of the power that was quietly at work while you slept. When you understand that heaven does not rest when you do, your nights are no longer hours of vulnerability, but seasons of divine activity. Every word spoken in faith before sleep, every thought guarded, every confession held fast becomes an invitation for heaven to move unhindered in your life. The Spirit within you remains awake, watching, interceding, and aligning the unseen with your destiny. As you establish nightly protocols of trust, gratitude, and declaration, your rest itself becomes a weapon of faith, silencing fear and empowering angels to carry out their assignments. And when morning comes, you rise into the tangible evidence of what was accomplished in the secret hours of the night. Peace replacing anxiety, clarity dispelling confusion, provision answering need, and strength renewing your inner man. Each awakening becomes a testimony that heaven's power has been at work while you slept, shaping your steps for the victories ahead.